Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you all so much for being with me here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. Today I just want to do a quick little update and just kind of update you on my upgrade audio system progress. As many of you know, and you've all been so helpful to me through the past few months on assisting me with my upgrade path uh, to replace really a 1980s to 1990s audio system that honestly served me well for 30 plus years for sure, uh, even 40 plus years. The record player that the VPI Prime turntable replaced was a 40-year-old Denon DP 1200, which served me all those years flawlessly. Great turntable. It served me well. But really, about a year and a half ago, maybe a little longer than a year and a half ago, I started this upgrade path, and I just been slowly working away at it, trying to methodically get things that I truly think sound good and really items that I really like. I really kind of went a little overboard as far as really what I had planned to do, in particular budget wise with the speaker system, with the Wilson Audio, the Watt Puppies. But you know what? It's a set of speakers that I had been coveting for years, since really the late 80s and 90s, listening to these speakers, and of course many others as well. But really, and just was so very grateful that I had the opportunity and the timing was right and the circumstances were right that I was able to get these bought about 4 months ago, well, November, December of 2024. So really, I'm kind of interested and I want to update you on the next steps of my audio system upgrade path. I've been looking at amplifiers, preamplifiers, phono preamplifiers, a digital front end, audio cables, both interconnects, and of course speaker cables. And that's really kind of what I want to take just talk with you today about is a pair of speaker cables that the audio dealer that I have been working with has given me on loan, a set of transparent super speaker cables. I'm going to grab these in the box and kind of bring that up a little bit closer to the camera so you can see it. And I hope you can see that without an awful lot of glare. But they are the super speaker cables. They are meant for the amplifier to be in the center, which is the design that I have and what I'm going to stay with. I really don't want to move my system from where it is over here on the sidewall to the center. I know a lot of people do that, but I really like the sound so much better with just the amp there rather than the entire rack. And so I'm going to maintain that system and just basically keep this configuration really the way it is. While I've been up Utah Audio, listening intently to amplifiers and preamplifiers, different configurations, I guess I really should tell you kind of a little bit what I've been listening to there. I've really been looking at the Macintosh C28 and or C55 preamplifier. Both of those units have a built-in phono preamp. I really tried to do a lot of research and and a lot of you have actually helped in some of the comments that you've made and me, questioning you on the systems that you have as far as phono. So thank you all for that very, very much. It's been very, very helpful. But, looking for reviews on how good the phono section is in either the C28 or the C55 preamp. The digital converter seems to be good inside of those. Would need a streamer to add to that, but they do come with a digital to audio converter, and of course they do have a phono stage built in. Along with that, I've been looking at the 462 amplifier, stereo amplifier, to place here in the middle to replace the Class A that I currently have. Also been looking at an option of putting a couple of 611 mono blocks as well. So looking at that possibility, those two systems sound very, very similar. When you introduce the C28 preamp into the system, it really does make a different change, a more smoother, more laid back presentation. But I'm also looking at Moon by Sim Audio, the North Collection. the 791 and 761 amp and preamp, and then just above that, the 891 and 861 amp and preamp. And those really are quite a stretch, or at least they would be for me, because they're quite expensive pieces of gear. I have been listening to those, and boy, I tell you what, they sound fantastic as well. Very different than the Macintosh. Not nearly as forgiving as Macintosh is, at least listening to them up at the audio salon. They sound wonderful. They're very analytical. They're very well controlled in the bottom end. Very nice and proper, I would guess. Really well detailed top end, but very different than the Macintosh. I think the Macintosh would probably represent stuff that isn't necessarily recorded so well, CDs, records, whatever it might make them sound a little bit better than the North Collection. That's just the initial impressions. I'm hoping to maybe bring an amplifier, a preamp of each down so that I can at least experience them in my system and in my room, because I know that's going to sound very different from what it does up there. But today, I just really want to quickly just talk with you about the super speaker cables by Transparent. I'm going to go ahead and hook them up. And the reason I wanted to do this, because I'm going to update, when I update the amp and preamp, I'm going to do speaker cables and interconnects. And so I thought I'd start with speaker cables, and they were gracious enough, the folks up at Utah Audio, to loan me these for a few days and let me listen to them. If I like them, I'll probably throw them in the package and purchase them along with the amp and preamp. What I've been doing recently, and a couple of the albums that I've been listening to, and really I'm going to be listening to a lot more albums, but the two that I'm initially going to start with is Kenny Loggins and Jim Messina, Sitting In. It's an Audio Fidelity SACD, extraordinarily well recorded. If you've not heard this SACD, you should. It's excellent. It's a Steve Hoffman remaster job. He did a great job. It sounds phenomenal. Also been listening to Joe Cocker, Sheffield Steel. Those of you that are familiar with Joe Cocker, Sheffield Steel, knows that it's an extraordinarily dynamic album. It sounds absolutely crazy good, in particular in the bottom end. And it's really got some very striking dynamics. This is I think a 1982 pressing of the album. And it sounds absolutely fantastic. Joe Cocker, Sheffield Steel, if you're not familiar with it, you really should listen to it, not to mention Loggins and Messina, Sitting In. Both fantastic albums. But that's kind of one of the things that I'm going to listen to as I compare back and forth initially. Like I say, there's going to be other albums. There's going to be other SACDs, CDs that I'm going to be listening to try and evaluate if there's any difference and what that difference might be between speaker cables. The cables that I'm currently using and have been using since probably the early 90s is a pair of Kimber Cable 8TC speaker cables. Now the current 8TC is white and gold in color. Mine are black and blue. That kind of gives you an indication of the age of the speaker cable. They sound great. They've really done well, but this will be a real fun experiment, at least for me, to be able to sit down and kind of compare cables. I'm going to go ahead and switch them out now. Okay, so with the cover off of the box, we see that they come in nice, great big bags. The cables do, and if you can see these, they are, they're really large. I mean, holy cow, I hope you can see that, whatnot. Very, very interesting. The direction on these is the spade ends go to the speakers, and the bananas are going into the amplifier. I'll go ahead and change those now. We'll start with the left speaker. I hope you can see this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn it off so as I don't blow up anything. One thing about bananas, it sure makes things a lot easier to quickly plug in than it does with spades, but you know what, we'll get there and get them all hooked up. Okay, there is Okay, that's the left speaker. We'll go ahead really quickly and do the same with the right side. Okay, bananas, go this way. Boy, I tell you what, with these speakers, the Class A amplifier, even though it's really good down into 4 ohms, it does a really nice job driving these speakers, but boy, it really gets a little bit warm. It really gets warm when you're playing it for any extended period of time, and I tell you what, it gets loud, and it really is a really is a heck of a system. Okay, there we go. So those are kind of hooked up. I'm going to go ahead and listen to them. I'll come back and give you a quick detail just on what I initially hear, if anything at all, and kind of let you know what I'm experiencing. Keep in mind, and at some point in time, I wish I could let you listen in. I really don't have a great microphone or a way of recording it, which is probably the most important part. And I still need to work and figure out how to get past all of the copyright issues with YouTube. But really, I hope I can get to some point, you know, especially when I'm doing record reviews and SACDs and CDs, talking about those. Hopefully I can get to a point where I can at least allow you to listen to what I'm hearing, at least give you an idea of what I'm hearing. Because I think if I was to do it now with the microphone that I have and just recording it on the system that I have, it really wouldn't make any difference. And I don't think you're going to be hearing anywhere near what I'm hearing in the room, even if you had it on YouTube and through headphones. I just don't think it would make a whole lot of difference. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and listen to these, and I'll get right back with you and let you know what I think. Okay, so just really quickly, let me show you the connections. And this isn't really anything fancy. I'm just kind of letting you see how they connect. I can sure tell you one thing. I really believe banana plugs are convenient and they're nice, but I tell you, spades are the way to go, especially when you've got heavy gauge speaker wire like these transparent super speaker cables. They're stiff and they're kind of hard to mold. I had to get out the Wilson Audio supplied binding post wrench to get them tightened up to where they would actually hold. But I believe, and if you look on the Wilson, the Watt Puppy 50th anniversary, I believe they're internally wired with transparent. And so, you know, maybe it does make sense to have transparent cables connecting to them. I don't know. Anyway, I'll let you know what I think when I give them a really quick listen. Sheffield Steel by Joe Cocker and Sitting In by Kenny Loggins. Okay, after connecting the transparent audio super speaker cables from my Class A CA 150 amp to the Wilson Audio, the Watt Puppies, and listening to Sheffield Steel by Joe Cocker, and then to Sitting In by Kenny Loggins on Audio Fidelity SACD. I can honestly tell you that, and keep in mind, the Kimber cables are good cables. I've had them for a lot of years, 30 years anyway, probably at least, right? And they've always sound good and still do sound good. But boy, there is a difference. And the real difference that I can hear initially, and this is all subjective, I mean, right? I mean, you just can't sit down and maybe listen to a couple of albums and make your mind up on what, in particular, a new set of speaker cables are going to sound like. But boy, I can tell you initially what the difference was. And let me kind of, maybe before I even tell you that, how I did this. What I've been doing is listening to these albums, and I picked a volume which on my Class A CP50 preamp was 16. And I tried to leave it at that as I evaluated what I've been listening to for the past several months with these speakers and this amp, and then switching out, just like I just did, to the transparent super speaker cable. The first thing and I left the volume control on the preamp the same. The first thing that I noticed was quite immediate is the bottom end with the transparent super speaker cable seemed to be a little tighter, a little more well-defined, maybe even, and it's kind of interesting as it gets tighter, but a little more heft, a little more bottom end weight. But it really did tighten up the bottom end, which is really an interesting thing that I really wasn't expecting. As far as mid-range and top end, I need to spend some more time and really see if there's anything different there. I do like what I heard. Like I say, initially, I really felt that I could hear a difference in the bottom end as far as being a little bit more focused, a little bit tighter, and maybe even a titch heavier on that bottom end. So yeah, it sounds to me like there's a difference, and I'm going to take some time in the next several days and just play a lot of different music and compare, and I'll do an updated video down the road a little bit and kind of tell you uh, what I'm thinking. I'm actually going to be doing a full review of the Wilson Audio, the Watt Puppy speakers here relatively soon, and that might be a good time and an opportunity to give you a little bit better update on my impressions and thoughts of the transparent super audio super yeah, transparent super speaker cables, and kind of give you an indication of what I really think at that point. Initial reaction, and just really quickly, it seems like the bottom end is a lot more focused and probably has a bit better weight to it. I shouldn't say a lot more focused, but more focused. Certainly things that you can immediately tell. And on Sheffield Steel by Joe Cocker, if you're familiar with that album, and if you're not, I suggest you really get yourself familiar with it because it's a great album. It's got some serious dynamics in it. Drums, bass. It really, from the bottom end standpoint, is really, really quick, articulate, deep, uh, excellent recording from, I believe, 1982. Uh, Really excellent sounding dynamic album. And that's really kind of one of the reasons why I picked it, is because it's one of my albums that I kind of go to when I'm listening to music and probably evaluating equipment with. Not to mention it's got fantastic music. Joe Cocker's voice on that album is very raspy, and boy, I tell you what, through the transparent super speaker cables, that bottom end felt tighter and it felt a little bit deeper. Initial impressions. I wouldn't dare say overall because I've just not quite had an opportunity. After maybe an hour and 20 minutes of listening to them, it's kind of hard to really craft up an honest and accurate evaluation of them. I'll really need to go back and forth and switch them back and forth between the Kimber cable and the old Kipper cable and the transparent super speaker cable to really kind of get a real honest and in-depth thought and evaluation on them. But initially, the initial is very positive. They definitely sound good. I think the bottom end is improved initially. The one thing that I have noticed with these speaker cables, as you can see, they are large and they're difficult to bend around and to get uh, in place, so you will. I will tell you this: it's cables like this. When you start getting up to thicker, more stiffer type cables, you definitely want, at least from my perspective, you definitely want spades on each end, speaker end and amplifier end, because I really had to tighten those up with the Wilson Audio supplied binding post wrench, just to make sure that they would stay in place and hold. By the way, those speaker termination on the Wilson Audio Watt Puppies, they are awesome. I tell you what, that's anyway. But anyway, initial impressions are positive. I think they sound better, in particular in the bottom end. full review and full thoughts coming up. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like what you see, please go ahead and subscribe. But as always, let me know what you think. Or do you own transparent cables? What's your thoughts on them? Give me some ideas. Let me know what you're listening to. Thank you so much for being with me here today. Have a great day.